We are studying the molecular basis of the neurological alterations in essentially minimal hepatic encephalopathy, and we will focus today on the mechanisms of some types of cognitive dysfunction. And we believe that most neurological alterations in minimal hepatic encephalopathy are due to alterations in neurotransmission. For our studies on the mechanisms, we are using animal models of minimal hepatic encephalopathy, mainly rats with portacabal shunt. And to assess the role of hyperammonemia, we are using a model of chronic hyperammonemia without liver failure that we get by feeding rats an ammonium-containing diet. And with these models, we study different types of learning and memory, which are modulated by different mechanisms involving different brain areas. These are some of these tests that we perform, testing the Y maze, Morris-Water maze, radial maze, and today we will focus mainly on the Y maze. In this test, the walls of the maze can be white or black. When they are white, food is put on the right. When they are black, on the left. And rats must learn where is the food depending on the color of the wall. We put the rat here, and depending on the color of the wall, she must learn where is the food. They perform the test 10 times per day, and we assume that they have learned when they perform correctly the 10 tests on the same day. We are using these tests for many years, and we have found that the ability to learn this test is modulated by the function of the glutamate nitric oxide cyclic GMP pathway. Activation of NMDA receptors increases calcium in the postsynaptic neuron. Calcium binds to calmodulin and activates nitric oxide synthase, increasing nitric oxide, which activates guanylate cyclase, increasing cyclic GMP. And part of this cyclic GMP is released to the extracellular fluid, and this allows us to measure the function of this pathway in vivo by using microdialysis in freely moving rats. We send a microdialysis proof in the cerebellum of the animal, and we take continuously samples of the extracellular fluid, and we can measure cyclic GMP. We can also add NMDA through the same proof, which activates the pathway and increases cyclic GMP. And the increase in cyclic GMP induced by NMDA is a good measure of the function of this pathway in brain in vivo in freely moving rats. We have studied this system in many different experimental conditions, and we have found that situations which impair the function of the pathway impair the ability to learn this Y maze task. And this occurs, for example, with aging, by developmental exposure to some contaminants such as PCBs, methylmercury, and also occurs in hyperammonemia or hepatic encephalopathy. This is, for example, what happens with the function of the pathway with age. In 3-month-old rats, this is the function of the pathway. This is the basal level of cyclic GMP. When we add an NMDA, this activates the pathway and increases cyclic GMP. If we use rats which are 7 months old, the function of the pathway is strongly reduced, and the increase in cyclic GMP is much lower than at 3 months. And these rats at 7 months need much more time, much more tests to learn the task than rats which are younger. Therefore, aging impairs the function of the pathway and the ability to learn this task. But there are also situations which increases the function of this pathway, and they increase also the ability to learn the task. And this occurs, for example, in rats with developmental exposure to PBDE99. This is the function of the pathway in normal rats. This is the basal level of cyclic GMP. We add an NMDA, and this increases cyclic GMP to here in normal rats. But in rats exposed to PBDE, the increase is larger. The function of the pathway is better because this treatment increases the amount of calmodulin, and these rats need less trials than control to learn the task. Therefore, improvement of the function of the pathway reduces the time needed to learn the task. And we have done these studies in many different situations, and there is a good correlation between the function of the pathway and the ability to learn the task. When higher is the increase in cyclic GMP induced by NMDA, lower is the number of trials that the rat needs to learn the task. Therefore, the ability to learn this task is modulated by this pathway. We tested what happens with this pathway in hyperammoid rats or rats with portacabal shunt. And as you can see here, this is there is an impairment of the function. This is the response in normal rats, and in portacabal-centered rats, the function of the pathway is reduced, and also in hyperammonemic rats, indicating that some step of this pathway is impaired in brain in vivo in hyperammonemia or portacabal-centered rats. Moreover, these rats need more trials than control to learn this task, indicating that they have impaired the ability to learn the task. Therefore, hyperammonemia impairs the function of the pathway and the ability to learn this task. Now the question is the reduced formation of cyclic GMP responsible for the impairment of the cognitive function? If this is the case, we should be able to restore the ability to learn by restoring the levels of cyclic GMP. And we could do this, for example, by inhibiting degradation of cyclic GMP with sildenafil, which inhibits phosphodiesterase 5. This enhances the levels of cyclic GMP and should improve cognitive function. We tested whether sildenafil restores the function of the pathway and the ability to learn in rats with portacabal-sant. As you can see here, rats with portacabal-sant have lower levels of cyclic GMP in cerebellum, and treatment with sildenafil restores cyclic GMP levels to normal levels. And this also restores the ability to learn. Rats with portacabal-sant need more trials than control to learn, and if we treat them with sildenafil, this restores the ability to learn. Therefore, restoring the levels of cyclic GMP restores the function of the pathway. Then, this data show that hyperammonemia impairs the function of the pathway, reduces cyclic GMP, and this is responsible for impairment of this type of cognitive function. It is clear from the studies in the last years from several groups, including our group, the group of Jalan and other groups, that hyperammonemia and inflammation act synergistically to impair cognitive function in patients with minimal hepatic encephalopathy. Then we studied the possible role of neuroinflammation in this situation. We studied whether rats with portacabal-sant show neuroinflammation, and we found that in the cerebral cortex of rats with portacabal-sant there is an increase in inflammatory factors such as interleukin-6 or the activity of COX, which is strongly increased in the cortex of these rats. And as you can see here, treatment with an anti-inflammatory such as ibuprofen normalizes most of these inflammatory factors. Therefore, rats with portacabal-sant show neuroinflammation, which can be reduced by treatment with ibuprofen. The question is whether treatment with ibuprofen will normalize the function of the pathway and learning ability. As you can see here, rats with portacabal-sant have impaired function of the pathway, and if we treat them with ibuprofen, this restores the function of the pathway. An increase in cyclic GMP is recovered. And this also restores the ability to learn the white maze task. Rats with portacabal-sant need more trials than control, and if we treat them with ibuprofen, this restores the function of the pathway. Therefore, neuroinflammation also leads to impairment of the function of the pathway and of learning ability. However, in these studies, the treatment with ibuprofen reduced inflammatory factors but do not eliminate hyperammonemia. And we have rats with hyperammonemia without liver failure which have reduced function of the pathway. This seems that there is some incongruence there, and we, taking into account this data, we led to the hypothesis that hyperammonemia will not do this directly, but hyperammonemia should induce neuroinflammation which mediates the effect on the pathway. Then we tested whether hyperammonemia induces neuroinflammation. We used the rats with chronic hyperammonemia without liver failure and measured inflammatory factors in brain. In this case, in cerebellum, you can see that there is an increase in interleukin-1 beta and in prostaglandin E2, which are also normalized by treatment with ibuprofen. Therefore, hyperammonemia per se induces neuroinflammation, which can be reversed by treatment with ibuprofen. We then tested whether this treatment with ibuprofen also normalizes the function of the pathway and learning ability in these hyperammonemic rats, and this is the case. Normalizes the pathway, and also treatment with ibuprofen restores learning ability in hyperammonemic rats. Therefore, this indicates that the effect of hyperammonemia on the pathway is mediated by neuroinflammation. It is likely that liver failure induces neuroinflammation also by other mechanisms in addition to hyperammonemia. But hyperammonemia induces this effect through neuroinflammation. Then we ask us, which is the mechanism by which hyperammonemia leads to neuroinflammation? As you have heard during these days, one of the main mechanisms leading to neuroinflammation is activation of microglia, and this leads to a change from a ramified to an amoeboid form of microglia, which releases inflammatory factors. Then we analyze morphologically if hyperammonemia leads to activation of microglia, and as you can see here, in rats with hyperammonemia without liver failure, microglia reach an amoeboid form, and this is indicating that it is activated, and this is also restored by treatment with ibuprofen. Therefore, hyperammonemia induces activation of microglia, which can be reversed by treatment with ibuprofen. Then the results shown before show that we can restore cognitive function in these rats with portacabalsan with ibuprofen. Therefore, one possibility would be to treat patients with minimal hepatic encephalopathy with ibuprofen, but as you know better than me, ibuprofen can induce secondary effects in the kidney of patients with liver cirrhosis, therefore it's not a good treatment. Taking into account these results, we thought that maybe we can reduce neuroinflammation directly in the brain without affecting the kidney if we act directly on microglia. Then we looked for some treatment which can reduce activation of microglia without affecting the kidney. And according to the literature, a good candidate for this could be inhibition of MAP kinase P38. Then we tested whether an inhibitor of MAP kinase P38 is able to eliminate activation of microglia in hyperammonemic rats. Well, this was done in rats with portacabalsan, which also have activation of microglia, as you can see here. And treatment with the inhibitor of the MAP kinase P38 normalizes the morphology of microglia, also reduces inflammatory factors as COX activity or extracellular prostaglandin E2, and also restores the ability to learn the Y maze. Rats with portacabalsan need more trials to learn, and if we treat with the inhibitor of P38, we normalize the ability to learn this task. Therefore, hyperammonemia leads to activation of microglia, neuroinflammation, reduced function of the pathway, reduced cyclic GMP, which is responsible for the impairment of this type of cognitive function. We also checked which is the step of the pathway which is impaired by hyperammonemia, and we found that it is activation of nitric oxide synthase, which can be measured also in vivo by microdialysis by measuring the stable metabolites of nitric oxide. And as you can see here, in normal rats, activation of the NMDA receptors activates nitric oxide synthase, and this is strongly reduced in hyperammonemia. We studied the mechanism by which this occurs in slices of cerebellum, and we found that reduced activity of NOS is due to increased phosphorylation in serine 847, which in turn is due to increased activity of calcium calmodulin kinase 2, which in turn is due to an increased tonic activation of NMDA receptors in chronic hyperammonemia, which finally leads to reduced activation of NOS, reduced function of the pathway, and impaired cognitive function. This glutamate nitric oxide cyclic GMP pathway is modulated by many different neurotransmitter systems and conditions, and one of the neurotransmitter systems which modulate this pathway is the GABA-A receptor. It is known by studies of Raitieri Fedele in Italy that activation of GABA-A receptor impairs the function of this pathway. For example, in our conditions, addition of muscimol, which activates GABA-A receptors, impairs the function of the pathway and reduces the formation of cyclic GMP. Then one possibility is that in hyperammonemia there is a increased GABAergic tone with increased basal activation of GABA-A receptors, which impairs the function of the pathway and reduces formation of cyclic GMP. If this is the case, we should be able to increase these cyclic GMP levels by blocking GABA-A receptors, which will eliminate this inhibition. And we can do this by using bicuculin. And we tested what happens if we administer through the microdialysis-proof bicuculin. These are the results. This is a basal level of cyclic GMP. And in normal rats, if we add bicuculin, nothing happens, essentially. This indicates that if you block GABA-A receptors, the function of the pathway is not affected, indicating that these receptors were not activated and were not inhibiting the pathway. However, in hyperamonic rats, if you add bicuculin, cyclic GMP increases strongly. This indicates that GABA-A receptors were activated tonically and were impairing the function of the pathway. There is an increased GABAergic tone in hyperammonemia in cerebellum, not in cortex, but in cerebellum. And this contributes to impairment of the function of the pathway. Then, if this is able to restore the function of the pathway, at least acutely, should also be able to restore learning ability. Then we tested whether chronic treatment with bicuculin is able to normalize the function of the pathway and to restore learning ability. And as you can see here, this is the case. It depends on the dose that you use, but with a proper dose, you can restore the function of the pathway and learning ability. Hyperamonic rats need more trials than controls to learn, and with 0.1 milligram per kilo of bicuculin, you are able to normalize learning ability in hyperamonic rats. Therefore, in summary, the results show that chronic hyperammonemia leads to increased activation of MAP kinase P38, activation of microglia, neuroinflammation, increased activation of NMDA receptors and of GABA-A receptors, which I believe there is an interplay in this. We are trying to understand it. And all of this leads to reduced function of the glutamate nitric oxide cyclic GMP pathway, leading to reduced formation of cyclic GMP, which impairs cognitive function. And we can restore these levels of cyclic GMP by different mechanisms acting on these steps. Inhibitors of phosphodiesterase 5, which directly increase cyclic GMP, restore learning. Also inhibitors of MAP kinase P38 or anti-inflammatories, such as ibuprofen, restore cyclic GMP and learning. And also modulators of GABA-A receptors are able to restore the function of the pathway and learning ability. Therefore, all this could be possible therapeutic treatments in patients. Some of them will have secondary effects, but can be overcome. For example, several companies, pharmaceutical companies, are developing inhibitors of P38 for treatment of chronic inflammatory diseases. And maybe this will be available soon. Phosphodiesterase inhibitors are being used for erectile dysfunction and now also for pulmonary lung hypertension and for hyperplasia of prostate. And also modulators of GABA-A receptors can be used as tools for improved cognitive function. As you have heard during these days, 3 minutes. Main modulators of the GABA system are the neurosteroids, which also modulate other receptors such as NMDA receptors or sigma receptors. Then we tested whether neurosteroids modulate the function of the glutamate nitric oxide cyclic GMP pathway. We tested different types of receptors, of neurosteroids acting on different receptors. And as you can see here, for example, pregnenolone or TH-DOC act as agonists of GABA-A receptors and reduce the function of the pathway. Pregnenolone, for example, does nothing. And we found one of them, which is pregnenolone sulfate, which acts as an antagonist of GABA-A receptor and agonist of NMDA receptors, which in hyperamonic rats normalizes the function of the glutamate nitric oxide cyclic GMP pathway. This is basal level of cyclic GMP in hyperamonic rats. If we add NMDA, the cyclic GMP increases here because the function of the pathway is impaired compared to controls. But if we treat these hyperamonic rats with pregnenolone sulfate, this restores the function of the pathway. This is an acute administration. We tested whether chronic administration of pregnenolone sulfate also improves the function of the pathway, and this is the case. This is the pathway in hyperammonemia And this is in hyperamyloid rats with pregnenolone sulfate. This restores the function of the pathway and also restores the ability to learn the Wayma's task. Rats with hyperamyonemia need more trials than control to learn, and pregnenolone sulfate restores the function of the pathway and the ability to learn. Therefore, in summary, there is an interplay between glutamatergic and GABAergic neurotransmission in cerebellum in the impairment of the function of the glutamate nitric oxide cyclic pathway and some types of cognitive function. And there are different targets on which we can act to restore the function of the pathway and learning ability. And this is the people who is doing the work.